Hey there everybody, it's garden update time. We're not going to cook today. We are going to take a step into the backyard and see what's happening in the garden. So thanks for tuning in again, everybody. I'm going to walk you through the garden, show you what's happening back there, and then I'm going to give you some tips and some information at the end. So stay tuned for that if you were interested in having your own backyard garden, or front yard garden, or side yard garden, or maybe your garden's on your roof. All gardens are welcome. Stay tuned to the end for some helpful tips. Welcome back to the backyard, everybody. Let's see what's happening. It looks like we've been doing a pretty good job of keeping the weeds under control. Mulching, thanks to my crack team of husband and teenagers. We've never had such a good handle on the weed situation in the backyard. So hey, there's a bonus to quarantine coronavirus life. Not a lot's blooming right now. I think the June update you saw more flowers. I just deadheaded my daisies and my iris, but they had all been blooming really beautifully. Had so many daisies this year. I divided those and replanted them, I think 2 years ago, and they really liked that. So if you have some perennials that are getting kind of out of hand, maybe consider dividing and sharing with your neighbors. So there's a little long-range view of the garden. I'll take you on some close-ups in just a minute. There's my giant rosemary bush, otherwise known as the Rabbit Hotel. So many rabbits living in there. They're my knockout roses. Those have been going strong for, gosh, about 10 years now. So pretty. And the beautiful pool towels I'm growing right there on my clothesline. So it's been really hot. We haven't had a lot of rain, which in some ways that's good. We tend to get lots and lots of rain all at one time, and it causes the tomatoes to burst open, and then they attract bugs and they rot. It's a mess. So I've been able to control my water with watering, and things are doing okay. Still have some squash, peppers, cherry tomatoes, yellow tomatoes, and cucumbers. I'm trying something new with my squash this season. They get to this point and they really don't like the super intense heat, and they start to wither, and they will start to produce some squash, and sometimes they'll get really hard, they'll get worms in them, and they're just over. But as I told you, I think in the last video, the summer squash root all along this main big root, and so I thought, I've got all this soil conditioner and cow manure stuff to prepare my beds for fall planting, and so I took some of those soil amendments and made a pile over the long main stem of my squash that still looked semi-healthy, and I'm gonna see if they'll kind of reroot with all that nutrition there and keep them from drying out so easily, and see if I can keep some squash and zucchini going even through the heat. So as I said, it's an experiment. I really have nothing to lose. I'm amending the soil anyway, and the squash were either done or they're going to keep going. So with all the coronavirus stuff and just kind of being uncertain about food supplies, I want to do everything I can to keep my garden going through the year. We have mild enough weather here in the Piedmont of North Carolina that I should be able to grow something year-round, and I'll talk more about that at the end. But I just wanted to show you what I was doing with my squash, and hopefully it will work. I'll let you know for sure in next month's update. Alright, so we've got these peppers, which I think are going to be yellow bell peppers. They're this light green color now, but they're supposed to turn yellow and be really sweet. I think. We'll see. Sometimes I forget from when I buy stuff back in the spring to what starts happening in the summertime. But they've got lots of buds on them. The peppers usually go way into September here. So we're really kind of just at the beginning of our pepper season. And there's one of my cucumber vines that's just produced like crazy. There's one little bunch of cucumbers coming. We have pickles and pickles and pickles, and I'll show those to you as well. Um, but those vines are starting to die, and frankly, I'm kind of glad I'm done with cucumbers. That bed right there, I've prepared and planted some carrot seeds, so we'll see what happens with that. Another experiment. And I think I'm about to hop over the rabbit fence, which is not keeping the rabbits out, I must say, and talk about what's going on in these other beds. Close your eyes if you get dizzy. So this bed is where my spinach was, and I've just prepared that and planted some bush beans, so like green beans, haricot bear, and those seeds are in there now. But look at this yellow squash, and he's just kind of come back to life and has all kinds of blooms and little baby squash on there. So I took care of that main stem like I showed you with that other zucchini plant, kind of further down that plant. So hopefully we'll keep that yellow squash going. Those are my banana peppers. As soon as this current harvest of them is all ready, I'm going to pick those and pickle some. Speaking of pickles, another pickle plant, otherwise known as cucumbers, kind of nearing the end. We'll hop on over to this next bed, which has that wild, jungly cherry tomato plant. Whoops, where are we going? Where are we going? Oh, we're going to the other one. I got a cherry tomato on this end, which has done not as well, but I still have plenty of them, so no worries. A couple more squash. Again, I worked on the little stems, so we'll see what happens. These are regular bell peppers. They look like the nice big green ones, and if you leave them, they're going to turn red. Another cucumber that's about to get ripped out because he's dying, and I'll fix that bed up for some more fall planting. And then here's a cherry tomato. Look at them. They're called Sweet 100s, and they do produce so many. They're super sweet. We've been giving them away to everybody. We're eating our fill and giving away lots and lots. There's another one back there that's just doing great. And then next door are the Lemon Boy, which are yellow, great big tomato that's delicious for slicing. They're sweet and they're not as acidic as a lot of red tomatoes. So I always grow Lemon Boys. And this year some of them are coming in really big. And they're doing really well. It's like they're kind of jungly down in there. It's kind of a hunt to find them. But they're really coming in strong right now. And that's about all that we have going on right now. Tomatoes, peppers, a little bit of cucumbers, a little bit of squash still. And hopefully we'll get some green beans to come up and some carrots to come up. So here's today's harvest. Tomatoes, tomatoes, and tomatoes. A couple of these yellow ones aren't quite perfectly ripe, so I'll wait a couple days and then I will can those. I'll cook them down and probably end up being just 1 quart, but we just can't eat this many all at once, and if I get 1 quart of tomatoes in the cupboard, that's better than none. And back here in the corner, I just wanted to show you what I was using to amend my soil. We have this brand called Daddy Pete's, and I buy their soil conditioner and cow manure, and I just mix some of that into my beds with any compost I might have as well. And I didn't do it in the spring. Typically I do, but I did not this year, so I want to make sure I get that in for my fall planting. I'm going to take our harvest inside. I'm going to show you something special I've got happening in the garage. Yes, we have quart jars with 1 cucumber each. 1 giant cucumber. 1 giant cucumber. My son wants really big pickles. So we have lots and lots of jars of slices and spears. Those are big 2-quart jars that have full-size cucumbers in them, so he can have his giant pickles. Those are some pickled jalapenos from last summer's harvest. We are just full of pickles. They're I don't even know how many quarts we have, at least 12 or 15, if I had to guess. But my son loves them, and he, I'm sure, would eat them all.
How are you going to get out of there now, Buster?
All right, so what do you think? You know, it's fun to watch it, right? From April, when things are just planted, May, everything is really lush and dark green. We don't have any fruit yet, but everything's getting ready, and then progressing into the growing season. And I'll be honest, this year, the garden looks better than it typically does because, well, the kids are a year older, and so every year they're a little bit more helpful back there. But also with the virus stuff, we just, you know, activities are canceled, vacations are canceled, and so we've been home more, and it's become a family activity on Saturday mornings that we go out and work in the yard, and we pull weeds, and we pick up sticks, and it's a lot to keep the weeds out and the sticks and the pine cones picked up and all that stuff. So having everybody work on that every week, for the most part every week, has definitely helped to keep everything looking nice, which makes me enjoy being out there more. When it gets kind of overrun with weeds, I just don't even want to go out, and I just am like, oh, I'm going to give up. Well, this year, so we've really taken care of everything, and so that makes me more excited to be out in the garden. But also, I do wonder about our food supply. You know, when I go to the grocery store, for the most part, everything I want or need has been available. You know, there were limits on meat for a while, and still, you know, it's not the same. There might be a lot of one thing instead of the variety that we typically have. But if I wanted beef, I could get beef. If I wanted chicken, I could get some kind of chicken. Actually, for a while, they were eating a lot of fish because there wasn't chicken in the stores. I still had some in my freezer. But anyway, all that to say, you know, some things are missing, like the canned fruits and vegetables. There's hardly any of that stuff in my local stores. So I want to grow what I can. I've always loved to grow what I can, you know, and we eat whatever's available. So when there are a lot of peppers, we're eating a lot of peppers. When there are a lot of squash, we're eating a lot of squash. Right now, as you can see, it's tomato time. We're eating lots of tomatoes. And I will preserve, freeze, or can what I am able. But I usually quit at the end of the summer. I've had a few veggies through, I've mostly done the cool season vegetables in the spring. So we've had some leaf lettuce, spinach, we had broccoli one time. We did potatoes, sweet potatoes, and what else came in early? Peas, which we never harvest those. The kids just pick them off the vine and eat them in the yard. It's like I was growing snacks instead of actually growing a crop of peas. But that was perfectly fine with me. But this year, with just uncertainty and a little more time at home, I've decided to work really hard to keep my garden going through the year if I'm able. You know, we have a pretty temperate climate here. We'll definitely have sub-freezing days, but a lot of things we can grow, or we can grow most of the year generally in the Piedmont of North Carolina. And so here's my tip for you. If you are wanting to start a garden, or maybe you've always had a summer garden, but you're like me and you want to see what you can grow through the fall and the winter months, then you need to look on your state's cooperative extension website. It's usually tied to a university. I know in South Carolina, Clemson has a lot of great information. Here in North Carolina, it's North Carolina State University. So you can usually just Google Cooperative Extension Service in your state and start there. You may be able to search something like vegetable growing calendar, or when do I sow cabbage seeds in Montana. You know, wherever you live, search for your state, but generally you're going to get the best information from a cooperative extension service or a university, and oftentimes they're tied together. And for North Carolina, I'll post a link to it because it's really helpful to see it. They have this big table, and it lists basically every vegetable and fruit that grows here, herbs, all that stuff. So, you know, all the food crops that grow here. And they told me, they made it for me. The table explained which months I could plant seeds and which months I could plant transplants. And I studied that chart, and I found an online source of organic seeds that was not charging an arm and a leg. And I ordered the ones that I could plant from right now, so the end of July through the winter time. And it's a lot of greens. Those will come later once the weather cools off. But according to this chart, I could plant carrots now. I could plant bush beans, which I showed you where I had cleaned up the soil, amended it, and planted those seeds. So I'm just trying, you know, it's not expensive, a few dollars for a pack of seeds, and you know, $10, $15 for some soil or soil amendments. Compost, if you have that in your backyard, is for free. And just experiment. I also started a journal, just a small spiral bound notebook, and I am keeping close track. So I know the date that I planted those seeds, how often I've watered them, what the weather has been like, just so next year I can know, you know what, the carrots did really well, the beans did not, this is what I needed to change. And I can hopefully just get better and better year after year. So I hope you just enjoyed a little tour around my garden. I enjoyed showing it to you. I wish I could share my bounty with you, but know that I am sharing with my friends and neighbors that are close by. And of course, we're eating tons and tons of those veggies ourselves, which they're grown organically, and it's just about as good as you can get. And I encourage you to do the same. Again, like I said in my very first garden video, if you just have a sunny patch on a patio and you can plant a pot of tomatoes or maybe some herbs, start small, start big, use the space that you have, and see what you can grow. It's so fun, and it's just as fun to be able to share your bounty with others. So thanks for tuning in today, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back next week with another great recipe for you. Stay well, and I look forward to chatting with you next time.